My name is Jessica Torres. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a correctional officer. I've only been doing this job for 3 years, but 3 years is more than enough to learn one truth. They are inmates, but they are still people. People with fears, regrets, anger, and sometimes hope. If you want to hear the real stories from behind these walls, the ones most people never talk about, subscribe to this channel. These are the stories I lived, and this is where I tell them. I picked up the note with hands that weren't shaking yet. They would be soon enough. The message was written in careful block letters, the kind of handwriting someone uses when they don't want it traced back to them. Officer Torres, you have 24 hours. Cell 23 or cell 47. One walks, one doesn't. Your choice. We're watching. My stomach dropped. Cell 23 housed Maria Gonzalez, a 32-year-old mother of three who'd made the mistake of testifying against her ex-boyfriend in a drug case. He had connections inside. Cell 47 was home to Yuki Chun, a 24-year-old college student who'd killed someone in a drunk driving accident. She was quiet, kept to herself, did her time without causing trouble. Both women were in C Block. Both were under my watch. I'd been working at Riverside long enough to know what this note meant. The Santos gang had been making moves in C Block for weeks. I'd seen the signs, the way certain inmates suddenly had new commissary items they shouldn't have been able to afford, the whispered conversations that stopped the moment I walked by, the tension in the air during meals. But this was different. This was direct. This was personal. I reported to the control room, immediately showed the note to Sergeant Matthews, a 20-year veteran who'd seen actual gang wars break out in men's prisons. He read it twice, his jaw tightening. "This is a test," he said. "They're testing you, seeing if you'll fold." What do I do? We lock down the block, investigate, find out who wrote this. But we both knew how that would go. Lockdowns meant interrogations, interrogations meant nobody talked, and meanwhile, the clock was ticking. I had 23 hours and 13 minutes left, and somewhere in C Block, someone was making plans to hurt one of my inmates. Maybe both. The morning shift change came at 6. I should have gone home, gotten some sleep, let the day shift handle it. Instead, I stayed. I couldn't leave. Maria and Yuki didn't know they were targets yet, didn't know that someone had decided their lives were negotiable. I walked through C Block during breakfast, watching. Every face looked suspicious. Every gesture looked like a signal. Maria sat at her usual table, eating oatmeal and talking to two other Latina inmates. She laughed at something one of them said, and I felt sick. She had 3 kids on the outside, 10, 7, and 4 years old. Their pictures were taped to her cell wall. She called them every Sunday at 3 p.m. exactly. Never missed it. I'd escorted her to the phone. So many times, I knew her daughter's voice when she answered. Yuki was alone, as usual. She sat in the corner with a book, something thick with a library stamp on the spine. She ate mechanically, not really tasting her food, lost in whatever world the book offered. She was getting her associate's degree through the prison education program. She wanted to be a social worker when she got out. Help people make better choices than I did, she told me once. How was I supposed to choose between them? I spent the morning asking careful questions. Talked to inmates who owed me favors, women I'd helped over the years with small kindnesses, extra time in the yard, a phone call when it wasn't technically allowed, looking the other way when commissary items got shared. Most of them knew something was happening. None of them would say what. Then I found Carmen Rodriguez in the bathroom during the 10 o'clock count. Carmen was 38, doing 15 years for armed robbery. She had Santos gang tattoos on her neck that she tried to cover with makeup. Past tense. She'd left the gang 2 years ago, and they hadn't forgiven her for it. "Officer Torres," she said quietly, checking the stalls to make sure we were alone. You need to be careful. Carmen, if you know something, I know they gave you a choice. I know it's real. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. It's about respect. New leadership in the Santos crew. They're flexing, showing they run C Block, not you, not the COs. Who's the target? Which one? Carmen shook her head. Both. Neither. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you choose. If you don't, they hurt both. If you try to protect both, they hurt both. If you choose one, maybe they leave that one alone. She grabbed my arm. But probably not. Because this isn't really about Maria or Yuki. It's about you. I felt cold all over. About me? You've been getting too close to the inmates. Everyone sees it. You listen, you care, you treat us like people. The gangs don't like that. Makes it harder for them to control us when we've got a CO who might actually help. So they're breaking you, making you complicit. Once you choose, once you decide who's worth saving, you're not the good one anymore. You're just like them, making deals, playing politics, choosing who matters. Little did I know, everything was about to fall apart in ways I couldn't imagine. By noon, I still hadn't made a decision. I couldn't. Every time I tried to think about it logically, who had more to live for, who was more vulnerable, who would be easier to protect, I felt like I was betraying everything I believed in. My job was to protect all of them, not some of them, all of them. I requested a meeting with the warden, waited 45 minutes in her office while she finished a conference call. When I finally explained the situation, she listened carefully, her face unreadable. Officer Torres, you understand that we cannot negotiate with gang members. I'm not asking to negotiate. I'm asking for help. We could move them both to protective custody, temporarily, until what? Until the gang forgets. They won't forget. And the moment those women leave PC, they're targets again. Maybe bigger targets because we showed weakness. She leaned back in her chair. The reality is that gang violence happens in prisons. We minimize it where we can, but we can't protect everyone all the time. So I'm supposed to just let this happen? I'm saying that you can't save everyone, Officer Torres. That's the hard truth of this job. You document the threat, you follow protocol, and you do your best. But you're not responsible for the choices inmates make. You're not responsible for gang violence. But I felt responsible. God, help me. I felt like those women's lives were in my hands, and if I made the wrong choice, I'd have to live with it forever. I went back to C Block for the afternoon shift. 17 hours left. I watched Maria during recreation time. She was teaching another inmate how to braid hair, laughing, being patient when the woman messed up. She had this way of making people feel seen, feel valued. Her kids were lucky to have her as a mom. Yuki was in the library corner, helping a newer inmate fill out a job application. She explained each section carefully, encouraged the woman when she got frustrated with her handwriting. Yuki was gentle in a place that punished gentleness. She hadn't let prison make her hard. At 4 p.m., I made a decision. Not the one they wanted. I called both women to my office separately, told them everything. Maria went pale, her hand flying to her mouth. My kids, she whispered. If something happens to me, my kids. Yuki just sat there, very still. Who do you choose? She asked. Neither. Both. I'm not playing their game. Then they'll come after both of us. Maybe, but I'm going to do everything I can to stop that. I explained my plan. It was risky, probably stupid, definitely against protocol. But it was the only thing I could live with. That night, during the dinner shift, I made sure Maria and Yuki were seated at the same table, visible, together. I stood nearby, watching. I wanted the Santos crew to see me refusing to choose, refusing to play along. I wanted them to know that I wasn't afraid. That was a lie. I was terrified. The leader of the Santos crew in C Block was a woman named Danny Santos. Yes, she'd taken the gang name as her last name. That's how deep she was in. She was 35, serving life without parole for a murder that happened during a gang initiation. She had dead eyes and a smile that never reached them. She ran C Block from cell 12, and everyone knew it. She approached me during the meal, walked right up, bold as anything, while 50 inmates watched. Officer Torres, I heard you got a message. I did. You make a choice. I looked her straight in the eye. This was it, the moment that would define everything that came next. I chose both. They're both under my protection. You want to touch them, you go through me first. The dining hall got very, very quiet. Danny smiled. Not a friendly smile. That's not how this works, officer. It is now. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. You just made a big mistake. You can't watch them all the time. You go home, you sleep, you take days off. We're here 24/7. We're patient. And now, instead of one target, we've got 3. Congratulations. She walked away. The dining hall slowly returned to normal volume, but I felt every eye on me. Carmen caught my gaze from across the room. She looked sad, like she'd just watched me sign my own death warrant. Maybe I had. The next 72 hours were the longest of my life. I picked up every extra shift I could, stayed late, came in early. I made sure Maria and Yuki were never alone. I flagged their cells for extra security checks. I had them moved to cells closer to the guard station. I watched Danny and her crew like a hawk. On the 3rd day, something changed. I noticed it during breakfast. Danny wasn't sitting with her usual crew. She was alone. Some of the other Santos members were keeping their distance. At first, I thought maybe I was seeing things, hoping for something that wasn't there. Then Carmen approached me during recreation. Word got out about what you did, she said, about you choosing both, refusing to play. And some of the girls are talking, saying maybe you're different. Maybe you actually give a damn. Danny's losing respect. She pushed too hard, and it backfired. The test was supposed to break you, make you just another CO who plays politics. But you didn't break. So Maria and Yuki are safe. Carmen hesitated. Safer. There's always risk in here. But Danny's power isn't absolute anymore. She can't make a move without the others backing her up. And right now, they're not sure they want to. You stood up. That means something. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt exhausted. Because Carmen was right. There would always be risk. Another gang, another test, another impossible choice. That night, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes before I could drive home. My hands were shaking. I'd been running on adrenaline for 3 days, and it was finally catching up to me. I thought about my family, how they'd always been against me working here. Why would you want to be part of that system? My mom asked when I got the job. It's broken me, Ja. You can't fix it. Maybe she was right. Maybe the system was too broken to fix. But that didn't mean I had to let it break me. A month later, Maria got released on parole. She'd served 4 years of a 6-year sentence, got early release for good behavior. I was there when she left, saw her reunite with her kids in the parking lot. They crashed into her like 3 small hurricanes, all crying and laughing at once. She looked at me over their heads and mouthed, "Thank you." Yuki still had 18 months left on her sentence, but she was thriving in the education program, getting straight A's, talking about her plans for the future. She told me once what happened with the gang thing, with you standing up for us. It reminded me that I'm worth protecting, that I matter. I'd forgotten that. Danny got transferred to another facility 2 months after the incident. Official reason was overcrowding. Real reason was that she'd lost control of her crew, and the administration saw an opportunity to break up the gang's power structure in C Block. Without her there, things got quieter. Not perfect, never perfect, but quieter. I still work at Riverside, still work C Block. My family still doesn't approve, and honestly, I get it. This job is hard. It asks you to make impossible choices and live with the consequences. It shows you the worst of humanity and occasionally, if you're lucky, the best. People ask me sometimes if I'd make the same choice again, refusing to choose, putting myself on the line for both women. The truth is, I don't know. It worked out this time. Next time, it might not. But I can tell you this. I couldn't have lived with myself if I'd played their game. If I'd decided one life was worth more than another, if I'd let them make me into someone who trades in human lives like their currency. This job taught me something important. You can't save everyone. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. It doesn't mean you start deciding who's worth saving and who isn't. The moment you make that calculation, the moment you let the darkness of this place convince you that some people matter less, you've lost. Not the fight, yourself. I chose both because they both deserve to be chosen. That's the lesson I hold on to on the hard days, the days when the weight of this place feels like it might crush me. Everyone deserves someone who chooses them. Everyone deserves someone who believes they're worth protecting, even in prison, especially in prison. Some nights, I still think about that note sliding under my door, about the choice I refused to make. And I sleep a little easier knowing that when it mattered most, when someone tried to turn me into something I didn't want to be, I said no. That matters. In a place like this, that matters. If this story moved you, if you understand why these decisions matter, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll keep sharing stories from C Block, the ones that changed how I see justice and humanity. Next week, I'll tell you about the inmate who saved my life during a riot and why I'll never forget what she risked for me. Don't miss it.